Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. Today, we're going to be talking about Avatar The Last Airbender, the animated series specifically. Now, we're going to be talking about, is this the greatest animated show of all time? And I'm of the opinion that it is. Now, I know that there are a ton of great animated shows out there, in particular from the 90s. You have the Spider-Man animated show, you have the X-Men animated show, the Justice League Unlimited, Batman the animated series, all incredible shows that I do love. I love every single one of those shows, and I think they're fantastic. In particular, for me, the Batman animated series, which is probably the second best animated series of all time. So when I think back on Avatar, I had just recently recompleted my maybe 50th rewatch of the show, and it's just as exciting now as it was the first time that I watched it back when I was in high school. I believe the original one was 2005 to 2007. It's 20 years later, and it's just as good. When you look at the show, it's a pretty short and concise show. It's 3 seasons composed of 61 episodes, I believe. And most of the show was, well, at least the overall plot of the show was originally planned out from start to finish. They did make some changes along the way. I believe that Zuko was a last second addition because they felt that they had needed a character to be a more present threat, even though Ozai is like the overarching bad guy of the show. They needed something more up front, and so they had him, but they did know that he was going to eventually end up on Team Avatar. And then things, like Toph, I believe, was originally supposed to be a big buff dude, and then they felt that it didn't fit the vibe of the group, and so she was changed to the small blind girl, and she's an absolutely wonderful character. But for the most part, it was all planned out from the beginning, which I think is why the narrative from season to season is so strong. You will have a few episodes that have the random little side adventures, but overall the main story is present in almost every episode, and it's pushed forward in a meaningful and compelling way. And so from just the narrative standpoint, the show is flawless. It's so good. It's very entertaining. It's a very classic tale of good versus evil. You have fallen heroes coming back to the light, and it all works on that level. And then, the animation is beautiful. The show looks really good. The bending looks really fun and epic in moments, and, playful when it should. And I think they do a really good job of really kind of bringing those fights to life. You can feel them, in particular, actually, I do believe it's the first time that you see Toph fight in that ring, and it shows how she senses the movement of the feet around her, or the people around her with her feet. And you can see these kind of white ripples come out, and that's how she senses it. And it just shows how complex these powers can actually be. And so even though to us it might look just like kicks and punches, we are informed by things in the world around it that show how complicated it actually is. And so I believe that the fighting only becomes more compelling the more and more you understand about the actual bending itself. And when you look at Avatar, bending, whether or not it's water, fire, earth, air, or the Avatar who can do all 4, they're just so cool. Those are such badass powers to have, and I really, of all the fictional universes you could live in, being in a universe with bending seems like it could be pretty cool. And how many fun fan debates of which is the best bending, and who here has had those discussions with their friends, what kind of bender would you be, and what kind of bender would you be, or what kind of bender would your boss be, and this and that and the other thing. And so it's also just a really fun show to discuss amongst your friends. And so power set's cool, animation's fantastic, the narrative is damn near flawless, and you have this group of characters, Team Avatar being the core, you have Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Toph is later added in. And they're all unique and different, and I like that. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses that they bring to the group, and they're all compelling in their own way. Aang, for the obvious reason of being the Avatar, being the last airbender, and the air nomads I think are just kind of fascinating to learn about, especially since they aren't very present in the show, so you kind of get these little drips of history, and it's a lot of fun. It's fascinating. Katara, you kind of have as the, quote unquote mother of the group, even though she's younger than Sokka. She's a little bit older than Aang, but she kind of takes on that role where she's taking care of everybody, assigning responsibilities, helping them stay organized and plan things out a little bit better. But then she also has her own compulsive moments and flaws, like when she tries to steal the waterbending scroll from the pirates. And so it's not just, they're one-dimensional. They all kind of have their roles. And then Sokka is, he's the comedic relief character, but through his arc kind of grows into this great leader and is able to inspire the people around him and becomes a very skilled fighter in his own right. And so again, it's these characters have arcs that make you care about them, and they're not just one notes. Like, he's not just the joke guy. Like, yeah, he does probably have the best jokes in the series, and yes, he does probably make the most jokes in the series, but that's really not all he is. And then they introduce Toph, and I absolutely love Toph. I think she's a wonderful character. She's a little spitfire personality. She's stubborn, difficult to deal with, comes from a very rich and privileged family, but doesn't act that way at all. Feels like an outsider amongst them because she's had to hide part of who she is because they think she's so fragile, and that's really not who she is. She's a rough and tumble type of character for sure. Maybe the best of all the benders when you're looking between, like when you have the later Team Avatar after Zuko comes into the fold, when you have Zuko for fire, Aang for air, Katara for water, and Toph for earth. Toph might legitimately be the strongest of those four benders. Like, she's maybe the best fighter when they're all just using the one element. Obviously, the Avatar has the advantage of being able to use all four elements, as well as being able to tap into the Avatar state. And, but point being, is she's just this unbelievably badass character, and she discovers metal bending and pushes the bending further, which is also really cool to see. And you do see it more, but you learn that lightning is an extension of fire bending, and blood bending is a extension of water bending, as well as like ice bending, and it just grows and grows. And it's such a fascinating thing to see as they introduce new characters that use these bending techniques in a way that you wouldn't have thought of before. And so when you look at all of the ingredients, like the characters, the narrative, the animation, the actual like lore and power set of the world, as well as, I forgot to mention the voice acting, also top notch. Everybody does a really good job in their respective roles. I think they do a good job of matching the tone of their character to whatever is actually going on. It's not flat or deadpan, and the comedy really, I think, sells a lot based off the tone that the actors use in their voice. So voice acting, again, also top notch. So you put all of the ingredients together that traditionally make a good show, and this show has it in spades, and it has I believe it's an advantage of only having 3 seasons, as there's really no stretch of the show that you're like, oh yeah, this was the weak season, or this was a big stretch episodes that just kind of felt like filler. It really doesn't have that. It moves very briskly all the way from when Aang comes out of the iceberg until he's fighting Fire Lord Ozai at the end. And the show even has brilliant things it does to recap the show when they go and they're watching the play that's basically the series of the entire show playing out in front of them, and it's played for laughs, and they're criticizing it and being like, oh, this doesn't happen like that. But it's also a really fun and creative way to kind of remind everybody what had happened over these 3 seasons, building up into this finale without it just feeling like a recap or filler episode, or like they're just dumping a bunch of exposition on you. And so even in the minor ways they do things, the show succeeds on almost every level. I really, I don't know if I could look at the show and be like, this is the obvious weakness, this is where it obviously fails, this is what holds it back. I don't see it. If you do see it, please let me know in the comments. Like I say in every episode, there's maybe something I'm not considering, something I haven't thought of, something I didn't notice, and I'd really love to see if what the critiques of this show are, because even when I look online, it just kind of seems like it has sort of truly universal love when you're talking about the original one. When you start branching out into like Legends of Korra and the god awful movie or the live action Netflix, the opinion does start to fray. But of the original Avatar, the animated series, seems to be universal love. So let me know what you think. Is it perfect? Is it flawed? What animated shows would you have ranked above it if you're thinking about greatest animated shows of all time? And then also, just because I do have to know, because I have this discussion with my friends all the time, we recently had it this past weekend, what kind of bender would you be? I've been told by almost everybody in my life that I'd be a firebender, and I agree. Okay, hope you guys have a good one, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.